Hi, this is Peter Woolfolk speaking. Now, first of all, thank you so very much for listening to the podcast. Now, I am very excited to let you know that the podcast is now available on Amazon Alexa. You know the drill. Simply say, Alexa, play Public Relations Review Podcast, and she'll take it from there. And again, thank you for listening. And if you enjoy the program, please become a subscriber. Now, on to the podcast.
Welcome. This is the Public Relations Review Podcast, a program to discuss the many facets of public relations with seasoned professionals, educators, authors, and others. Now, here is your host, Peter Woolfolk.
Welcome to the Public Relations Review Podcast and to our listeners all across America and around the world. This podcast is ranked by Apple as one of the top 1% of podcasts worldwide. So let me say thank you to all of our guests and listeners for making that possible. And please, we'd certainly like to receive a review from you on our podcast. Now, question. We all know that most police departments have community relations officers to facilitate communications and activities with their surrounding communities. However, are you aware that one of the more innovative community outreach efforts taking place in one of our great cities is a community podcast? Well, my guest today will give you an overview of their new outreach effort, how it came to be, and the success that it now enjoys. So joining me today from Newport News, Virginia, are the creators and members of the Newport News Police Department's new Running Code podcast. They are Captain Tiejens, Kelly King, she's Communications Director, and Matt Michalec, and Senior Communications Specialist. So let me welcome all of you to the podcast.
Thank you, sir. Great to be here.
Okay. So, Captain, since you're probably the senior person there, how did this come about? What led to you guys producing a community podcast?
So, well, I will pass that question on to Miss King, since she has the most knowledge about that, and then I'll speak a little bit after she comments on it. Kelly, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, the chief and I talked about it a lot, and there may even be some disagreement as to whose actual idea it was between me and the chief, but we'll just leave that at that. But we have a huge social media presence. We have a great following on most of our platforms, and we just wanted to expand that footprint a little bit more. So we talked about potentially doing a podcast. And I really wanted it to focus on learning more about the men and women who work for our department, and not just what they do for our department, but also just who they are as people, kind of putting a beyond the badge kind of feel to it. So we just kind of sat down and decided what we were going to do, came up with a name for it, and we have great partners with our local city production company that helps us actually produce the podcast. And we've had some great guests, and of course Captain Tiejens is a host, and one of our lieutenants is a host as well, and they've been really super. Captain Tiejens, everybody seems to have a story about him because he's been around for a while, so that really helps too. But we like to keep it real personal,
So what sort of things do you cover?
So that's how it kind of come about.
Okay. Well, now, so what sort of things do you cover on your podcast?
Well, just about everything. What we do is what Matt will do, and Matt speaks a little bit more to this, we'll get a list of people that we want to feature on the podcast, try to, be diverse in their job responsibilities and that type of thing. Because it does kind of serve as a recruitment tool, too, because we hope people look at it and think, wow, I want to do that kind of thing. And then he'll talk to them about their personal lives and, maybe interesting stories, that kind of thing. And then we just, we do a little rapid fire session at the end, and, just kind of try to have a casual conversation with them just so that people get to know them more, the people that are protecting their own cities.
Mm-hmm.
We have such a diversity in our officers here, and just the careers, not only their interests within law enforcement here, but the backgrounds and where they've come from, how they came to join the department, even their interests outside of law enforcement now. There's I've learned so much about the officers myself just in speaking to them before they've come on the podcast. I mean, we've got officers who coach youth sports. We've got officers who do woodworking, officers who are very accomplished martial artists. So those are some of the stories we like to tell and just show our community some of the kinds of people that serve the community.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you go about getting feedback from the community on that? How is there some sort of way the community folks can reach you and say, here's what we like, or in some cases, here's what we'd like to see? Have you gotten any sort of feedback or interaction from them on your podcast?
You want to take that, Matt?
Sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so we've certainly had a lot of folks reach out, both from the community, be it social media, in fact, I think Captain Tiejens probably might even be a better one to answer that question, because I know he's actually had some pretty funny stories of some folks that he's run into that have given him some direct feedback.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, twice I was approached in grocery stores by people who said, "You look familiar to me. You look familiar to me. Oh, you're that guy on the podcast." Then I had a gentleman come up to me at a soccer match and said, "Hey, when's your next podcast coming out?" So Melissa and I have both been recognized while out and about, just doing our regular duties from one location to another. We're approached, and I will tell you, I have never received any negative feedback on the podcast. Most people enjoy not only learning about the men and women of the police department, but our self-deprecating sense of humor, where we joke a little bit about ourselves. So far, well received.
Mm-hmm. So have they being the community members who listen, have they given you any other ideas or said to you, well, here's some things we'd also like to know?
We haven't really had any requests per se for things. We have had feedback, like that was a great one, we really enjoyed that one, that type of thing. We don't, and we get the feedback on Facebook or YouTube, wherever we host it, and we do some promotion, that kind of thing. But so far we haven't really had any requests per se. Just great feedback, very positive feedback.
Okay. So how often do you do it? Is it a weekly or twice weekly? What's the frequency of your production?
So our aim is to produce one every couple of weeks. So about twice a month, and obviously that can vary a little bit depending on the schedule of our officers. Since we have a lieutenant and a captain who are very busy, who serve as our co-hosts. So, but our goal is to turn out 2 a month. We've done a total of 12 episodes so far. So that's the general template. Obviously, knowing that can change a little bit depending on the folks, since our officers are our hosts and our guests.
Mm-hmm. I think that's interesting, because one of the things in my developing my podcast was how often would I do it, and this is sort of a sideline for me. It's not a full-time job, so I had to find what was the manageable thing that I can do. So I'd say between 2 and 3 a month is what I can do, and I've been at it for 5 years. And coming up with topics is a tricky situation sometimes. So I'm just wondering, I mean, you guys have been doing it for a while now, so how many different things, how wide of reach do you use in terms of your department in letting people know about the things that you do? I mean, do you cover every department? How does that work?
Well, we try to recruit from just about every department, so we have a good representation, but we have over 400 some odd sworn officers, so we kind of figure they all have a little bit of a different story as to how they got there, why they became an officer, what their interests are, those kind of things. So we just actually pick names, run them by the chief, and oh yeah, that'd be a great one. Really no formal way of how we choose who's going to be on the show, but so we just basically, it's just a picking up the phone, hey, we think you'd be great on our podcast, would you join us, type of thing. Some people are a little too shy, but usually they're willing to do that.
Well, I think the fact that you do have it on YouTube, which has the visibility portion of it, might cause some folks to be shy. But the fact that you do have it, I think, is an additional platform that adds to it. I would assume adds to its popularity, that folks can watch it as well.
Absolutely, and not only is it on, I'm sorry, Kelly, I apologize. Not only is it on YouTube, but we actually transmit it on the City of Newport News television channel. So that's another way that we're able to get viewers.
Departments. Have you let other folks know about this? In other words, there might be some police conferences of some kind, and you guys take this out there to let them see, hey, here's some of the things that we're doing. And have you run across any other police departments that are doing anything similar?
We actually had a couple other police departments in our area who actually started up podcasts not too long after we started ours. They have their different spin on maybe how they approach it as far as who their host might be, or maybe what their subject matter is. So it does maybe seem to be somewhat of an emerging type of idea, perhaps, in law enforcement. And certainly when we were looking at starting our own, we went out online and looked to see what was out there as well. And there's some others out there nationwide too. So it does seem to be an idea that has got a bit of a foothold out there nationally. There's different niches, different police departments, or different maybe subject matter podcasts about policing that are out there too. So it seems to be like it's maybe an emerging field, perhaps, of law enforcement type of podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you said this is an opportunity for you to highlight and show members of your police department. Had you ever thought about maybe at some point in time maybe having some community members to come in and talk to you on your podcast?
We haven't looked at that type of structure before. We certainly haven't ruled it out, and we have thought about expanding it maybe to our 911 team. Mm-hmm. We would love to get them to get in there too and talk about it and talk about what they do. Also an area that's kind of hard to recruit for, so we like to promote that position and how important that is. But community members, I can think of a couple that I would love to have on, but we have not ventured that far out yet.
Well, now tell me, in terms of, now you said it certainly is also a recruiting tool. Tell me how that works. Do you talk to all members of your department, the new recruits, or the everybody, just to let folks hear, about the progress, from the time you were recruited until such and such a time you could wind up being this, that, or the other officer and so forth. How does that work?
We are very blessed to have a department that is progressive when it comes to recruiting. We're always looking for ways to inform the public about the job, but we also want them to know that you may be that individual that says to themselves, I really am fascinated by the job, but I don't think I can do it. When you watch our podcast, what you see is human beings like me, who never thought they could do this job, but are doing it today, and 34 years are still serving the community. So we're sending a message out there that, hey, if you're considering it, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Put in that application and come on out and join us. Give it a chance. Give it a chance. It may last you a career. Of course, we talk to the recruits at the academy. We let them know about the podcast when we have an opportunity. Anytime I'm out in the community, I'm saying, hey, if you get a chance, watch the podcast. So we are informing the public of the podcast, and when they watch it, they seem to really enjoy it because it's showing the different side of law enforcement. Oftentimes what you see on television is a robotic police officer that's out there doing the job and following some kind of tactical procedure, what have you. What you see on that podcast is three people in T-shirts and jeans having a good time talking about what they've done in the past, what brought them to law enforcement. So it's completely different. We eliminate the uniform, which puts everyone at ease. And again, the public sees human beings having a conversation. Mm-hmm.
This really sounds like a great idea. And as you said, obviously other police departments are taking notice and have begun to at least create some of their own. So I think that, now how about the statewide? Have any, let's say the governor or the mayor and others, have they taken a look-see at it? And if so, what sort of response have you gotten from them?
Locally, we have gotten an amazing response from our mayor. Our biggest fan seems to be our vice mayor. He comments on all of our podcasts and how great it is and what a great show it is. So here in the city of Newport News, it's very popular. and they really like what we're doing. We haven't heard much at a state level, even though the Attorney General, I think, has commented one time on the podcast too. So they're seeing it, and that's a good thing. I think we've done 11 episodes, I think. So we have a little more work to do to kind of spread the word and get people to watch it, promote it a little bit more.
Well, a podcast is certainly sort of an advertising tool, so that because I think your capital is Richmond.
Yes.
Right. So those folks who make the budget up, I mean, they certainly should see this. That here's how some of your money is being spent and the benefits therefrom. I think that sort of thing always helps. It's an indirect advertising tool that money well spent because we are connecting with our community in a way that is meaningful and responsible.
Absolutely, and this transmits far and wide, the podcast. I have a friend of mine who watches it in Greece, as in the country. So it really stretches far and wide, and it's just a beautiful thing. I thoroughly enjoy doing it. Very blessed to be doing it.
Now that you mentioned that, because that was a surprising thing to me, as I mentioned, I'm heard in 147 countries. That is nothing that I worked at. I basically stumbled onto it on my hosting site. For maybe a year and a half, I saw this little word up there that said stats. I said, oh, heavens. let me click on that and see what's going on. come to see I was being heard in other countries. I had no idea because, the hosting site never said a word about it. And that's when I started looking at, maybe I should grow this thing. And slowly but surely, it was a matter of my reading. I had never done podcasts. I've done radio in the past, but podcasting, I had no idea what it was when I first heard about it. But I started reading, what do I need to do to make a great podcast, and what do people listen for, and tried to follow those guidelines. And it seems to me that you guys are doing the same thing, that you want to. And the fact that you have video really adds to its attraction. That people will like it as well as hearing, as well as seeing it, certainly adds quite a bit to it, and I tip my hat to you for that.
Well, we're very, very lucky that Matt and Kelly are on board, and they're really the organizers of this podcast, and they're kind of giving us that direction because if you watch all 11 episodes, you'll see that there's an evolution that takes place in how we present the product, so to speak, and when we need to tweak it, Matt and Kelly will tell us that, which makes me and Melissa better at interviewing people and makes just the overall show better. So we're very lucky that we have experienced folks like them that are driving this podcast.
One of the things that I think, whenever you think that you're ready, is there are a wide variety of organizations that have contests for podcasts to give awards for them. So you might want to consider at some point in time taking a look, see what are they looking for, what do they require, and, just fill out the application and send it in there. I've certainly won a few on mine. What caught me by surprise a couple of times that I got an invitation from some organization in London to apply for an award because they'd heard me over there. I said, well, what the hell, why not? And I did, and I won something. So that's another way of sort of...
Congratulations.
So letting people know.
That's great. We're ready to do that. Yeah, we're ready.
And seriously, I mean...
we think we are.
No.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And let me say this. As I said, I certainly looked at a couple of your episodes, and the production quality is exceptionally good. I mean, I really tip my hat to you for that when I saw the Rode microphones up there and video, and I said, wow, this is good-looking stuff here. I mean, that's the sort of things that adds to your acceptability of how well is it produced. People look at those kinds of things, and, the fact that your stuff is good, your topic is, makes a lot of sense. So that's the kind of thing that people pay attention to, and especially, having worked for government in Congress and other things, when it's time to, submit your budget, folks are going to say, well, what have you done for me lately? Well, this podcast is one of the major things that helps police get a good, people support the police departments that they like. There's no question about it. And when it comes from budget, somebody's up there defending your budget. Look at what we've done, and here's the reaction we're getting from public that we serve as a result of this podcast. Those things help. So I'm just saying that having been down this road, you've got a lot of good things going for you, and a part of it should be that now not only talk to the public, but let's indirectly talk to the legislators down in Richmond, so they'll maybe look at us a bit more favorably when budget time comes.
Definitely, most definitely. And that's another thing is our chief is so supportive. And like I said, it was his idea, but he's very supportive and always willing to try new and different things, and willing to share too what we're doing, and attends, of course, national conferences for chiefs of police and that type of thing, and loves going to see that we really are cutting edge on what people are doing out there. Always feels really good walking away knowing that we're really leading the way when it comes to community relations, social media, and that type of thing, and connecting with our community. And he's real proud of our podcast.
Well, it's
and I would be remiss.
I'm sorry, go on.
I would be remiss, and I know Kelly and Matt agree with me, if we didn't tip our hat off to John and the entire team at the City Channel who hosts us and really has set up the studio and production. The production value is incredible because those guys are tip-top. They've been doing it for years. So hats off to them. We really owe them a big thank you, and I know that Matt and Kelly agree with me.
Absolutely.
Well, those kind of things, the support staff, you've got to take care of your support staff. There's no question about it. I'm a single-handed here.
Definitely.
But the other thing, as I listen to you talk about going to police conferences around the country, you might want to consider doing a podcast at one of those conferences. I'm sure you can work out some topics in terms of community relations. Maybe have a podcast on community relations by different departments and see how some of those are doing, and have that as part of one of your episodes. So I see a lot of different ways that you can begin to build this particular podcast, and the fact that you've got good production quality certainly adds to the support of it from people both inside and outside of the department.
I'm taking notes. Yeah, good ideas. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this. I have. I'm glad that I ran across this article and made a call to you guys about this, because I think that as public relations people, a lot of folks who do listen, and my audience, all public relations people, would perhaps have an interest in this. I think I did a podcast maybe a couple of years ago with a police department out in Montana. And the reason I did that was because I read an article that they were putting on courses for police departments about having a good public relations program, because the public needs to know what you're doing. So I had them on to talk about that several years ago. And when I saw your podcast piece there, I said, wow, some PR folks might need to see this, and you never know what might come of it. So let me ask you, before we close this now, is there anything that you think that we have not covered in terms of, or did you like to say that we've missed in terms of talking about your podcast?
If I could offer one thing to any police organization that's out there thinking about doing a podcast, allow it to be organic. Know a little bit. The host should know a little bit about the person that you're going to be interviewing, but let it be organic. Let it be what it is. Listen to what the guest is saying and ask questions based on what they're saying. You want it to be genuine, and that's important. And anyone watching the podcast will know if it's scripted. Be genuine. They appreciate that.
And I would also say it definitely helps that definitely be mindful and thoughtful when picking the hosts. I mean, something as simple as that. I mean, the fact that we have Lieutenant Morgan and Captain Tiejens, they just do a great job, and they have previous experience working together within the department, so they know each other. They have some stories they've told on each other, but they have that previous relationship, and they can kind of play off each other some during the shows as well, which kind of makes it even all the more fun when we get time to actually do the recordings too.
Yes, and I think Captain Morgan and Matt have summed it up really well. I just feel very fortunate that we have such great people that we can feature, and that we have an opportunity to feature what these people do every day and who these people really are. And it's a very difficult job, and they get put in different baskets all the time and judged and whatnot. And I love the opportunity that we can show people who they are and appreciate them for what they do.
Well, let me say this. I certainly do appreciate you guys taking the time to come on this podcast to talk about what it is you do about your podcast. And I think the listeners will appreciate hearing about this police department taking the initiative to do what you've been doing. So let me say once again, thank you to Captain Morgan Tiejens and Kelly King and Matt Michalec from the Newport News Police Department and their Running Codes podcast. And I'd like also to say thank you for my guests, not to my guests for taking the time to come on. And I'd also like to say thank you to my listeners. I hope that you've appreciated it. And certainly, again, we'd like to get a review from you. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, share it with your colleagues. And we'll look for you on the next edition of the Public Relations Review podcast.
This podcast is produced by Communication Strategies, an award-winning public relations and public affairs firm headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, this is Peter Woolfolk. First, let me say thank you so much for being a listener. Now, I want to alert you to our shiny new podcast website located at podpage.com. However, you can go directly to the podcast site located at publicrelationsreviewpodcast.com. There, you can contact me through email. You can leave a voice message. You can leave a review. You can read an episode blog and frequently learn about the podcast guests. You might also want to suggest podcast topic ideas or even suggest a guest. You can also let me know if you would like to receive our podcast listener logo that you can post on your social media. So I look forward to hearing from you about our new podcast website. Thank you so much for listening to the Public Relations Review podcast, and have a great day.